What's up? Today we are going to talk about solving multiplication word problems. Really just word problems in general. This is a question that from a worksheet that I gave students this week. Let's get to it. Ravi is learning to speak Spanish. He goes to Spanish class 4 times each week. How many classes does Ravi go to in 7 weeks? Now, here's the thing. Before I even answer the question, I just want to say a lot of students really don't like word problems. They find them overwhelming. They find that there's a lot of information to process all at once. I totally understand that. I used to feel like that once upon a time too. And so here's what I encourage my students to do. I say, you know what? Take your time with it. Read the problem, go slowly. You probably may need to read it a few times to really understand what the question is asking. And you really want to get to the heart of what the question is asking. You also want to get out of some bad habits. One habit that I notice some students make is that they will be presented with a worksheet, a math worksheet. And at the very top, it'll say multiplication practice or multiplication word problems or whatever. And because they know that the operation they need to use is multiplication, they will be presented with a word problem like this one. And rather than read it carefully, they'll just look for the numbers. Oh, I see a 4. Up, I see a 7. It's got to be 4 times 7. And that'll be the answer. 4 times 7, 28. That's going to be the answer. And they'll get so in the habit of doing that, well, here's the problem with it. First of all, you're not really paying close attention to the question, and eventually what's going to happen is you're going to get the question wrong. You might get it right a few times. Maybe it is 4 times 7. But eventually you're going to be presented with a problem, especially as math gets more complicated, where you're not going to be able to just do that. You're going to be presented with information that doesn't even matter, just to throw you off. And so I want my students to really get in the habit of reading the question carefully. Now, let's get to it. Ravi is learning to speak Spanish, and he goes to Spanish class 4 times a week. Well, that seems like important. 4 times each week. That seems like important information. But this question is asking me how many times he goes in 7 weeks. Now, because I have done a lot of problems like this, and I know my multiplication facts really well, I know what I need to do to answer the problem is do 4 times 7. And that'll tell me, so 4 times, 4 classes each week for 7 weeks. And that's going to give me 28 times. Ravi will go to Spanish class 28 times over 7 weeks. But not everyone can come to that conclusion so quickly. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to process the information. So what I encourage students to do, and something I used to do quite often, is draw diagrams or pictures to help me understand what the question is asking. So Ravi goes to Spanish class 4 times each week. Okay. But he's going 7 weeks. So I'm going to draw a little box, and this represents 1 week. And he goes to class 4 times. Spanish class 4 times in that week. But he's going 7 times. So this is the 2nd week. That's the 3rd. You know what? I'm not going to write the numbers. So we have 1 week. Now we have 2 weeks. 3 weeks. 4 weeks. 5 weeks. 6 weeks. My boxes aren't so clear, but that's okay. And 7 weeks. Each box represents 1 week, and the 4 inside each box represents the number of classes Ravi goes to. And so now, as I'm looking at this, I can see that really the problem is 4 times 7. I have 4 7 times. I can use a multiplication chart if I don't know my multiplication facts to do 4 times 7. I can add up all the numbers if I want to take the time to do that. And I can just see 4 times 7 is 28. So Ravi goes to class 28 times over 7 weeks. Let's move on to the next problem. All right, I'm going to erase all this at the top so it doesn't distract us. Lee has a babysitting job. Oh, I used to do a lot of babysitting when I was younger. Okay, Lee has a babysitting job. She babysits her neighbor's 5-year-old son 2 times a month. How many times will Lee babysit her neighbor's son in 11 months? Oh, again, there's a lot of information here. So I'm going to read the problem again to really understand what the question is asking. Lee babysits. So Lee has a babysitting job, and she babysits a 5-year-old kid 2 times a month. That seems like it's important information. 2 times a month. What is the question asking me, though? It's saying, how many times will Lee babysit her neighbor's son in 11 months? Now, again, if I'm not sure how to answer the question, I can always draw pictures to help me. So I know we're trying to figure out how many times Lee will babysit in 11 months. I can draw 11 circles. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Last time I did boxes, but now I'm doing circles. So that's 11 months. Okay. And Lee babysits her neighbor's 5-year-old son 2 times each month. So that's 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 11 months. Well, I've written the number 2 11 times, which means the equation is actually 2 times 11, which makes my answer 22. In other words, Lee will babysit her neighbor's son 22 times in 11 months. And finally, let's do this last one. And these are all from, at least for my students, these are all from the worksheet that we did this week. This question is saying, Fiona does 3 loads of laundry each week. Oh, that's a lot of laundry. How many loads of laundry does Fiona do in 8 weeks? Ay caramba, that is a lot of laundry. So we got to figure this one out. Let's do it. Again, I'm going to think about what is the important information. Well, I think 3 loads of laundry each week. Now remember, the word each means 1. Let me write that out. When you see a problem with the word each, it means 1. Oops. Okay. So Fiona does 3 loads of laundry each week, but we want to know how many loads of laundry she does in 8 weeks. Now, I know we're dealing with 3 loads for 1 week, but we want to know how many. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold here. Ay. 3 loads in 8 weeks. Now, because I've done a lot of problems like this, I've had a lot of practice, I know my answer is going to be 24 loads. But let's say I don't come to that conclusion so easily. Well, remember, you can always draw pictures, okay? So she does 3 loads of laundry. Here, I'll draw a very pathetic laundry basket. So she does 3 loads of laundry in 1 week. That's 1 week. WK is abbreviation for week. Then she does another 3 loads of laundry the next week, week 2. But I want to know 8. How many she does in 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're starting to see that the equation is going to be, we've written 3 8 times. And if we've written 3 8 times, then the equation is going to be 3 times 8. So Fiona does 24 loads of laundry in 8 weeks. And we'll stop there. We're going to practice this a lot. But again, remember to get out of bad habits and take your time. There is no need to rush through math problems. A lot of kids do that, but there is no need. Okay, until next time.